Welcome to the Full Moon Film Buff, episode 78. We're going to talk about The Monster Squad from 1987. I rented this from Amazon Prime. I had seen this before. As always, we begin by talking about the prominent crew and cast. The film was directed by Fred Dekker, written by Fred Dekker and Shane Black, with effects by Stan Winston and John Rosenkrantz, among many other talented effects artists. Fred Dekker is known for his horror comedy genre work. Monster Squad wasn't a huge initial box office success, but developed a cult following over the years and is probably Dekker's best known directorial effort. He stepped away from the directing chair for many years after Monster Squad, though he co-wrote scripts for films like RoboCop 3 in 1992 and The Predator in 2018. Shane Black is an influential screenwriter and director renowned for his gritty, complex anti-hero narratives and trademark witty pop culture-infused dialogue. Black exploded onto the scene by writing Lethal Weapon, also released in 1987. The film was a massive commercial and critical success, earning Black acclaim for his take on the buddy cop genre and his ability to seamlessly blend action with dark humor. Building on that success, Black went on to write other notable screenplays, including The Last Boy Scout, Last Action Hero, and The Long Kiss Goodnight. After establishing himself as a sought-after screenwriter, Black made his directorial debut in 2005 with the neo-noir film Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. This is my chance to talk about the great Stan Winston as part of this werewolf project. From a young age, he showed a keen interest in drawing and sculpting. Winston's break came in 1984, when his groundbreaking special effects makeup work on the iconic film The Terminator earned him critical acclaim and launched his journey to becoming a legend in the field. Over the next decades, he brought to life the terrifying xenomorph in Aliens, the fearsome Predator in the eponymous film series, and the unforgettable dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. His ability to successfully blend cutting-edge animatronics with practical makeup effects revolutionized the industry and set a new standard for cinematic realism. Winston's talent extended beyond creature effects. He was also a master of character makeup. In addition to his work on beloved blockbusters, Winston lent his experience to smaller independent projects. He firmly believed in the power of practical effects and worked to preserve the art form in an increasingly digitized industry. Winston's contributions to the film industry were widely recognized, as he won 4 Academy Awards for Best Makeup and Hairstyling and was nominated 6 other times. Tragically, Stan Winston's life was cut short when he passed away in 2008 after a battle with multiple myeloma. However, his legacy as the maestro of makeup and monsters lives on, etched into the cinema history and the hearts of movie fans everywhere. In 2009, the Winston family founded the Stan Winston School of Character Arts to preserve Stan's legacy by inspiring and fostering creativity in a new generation of character creators. The school, which is 100% online, currently offers hundreds of in-depth, on-demand educational video courses by Hollywood's leading special effects artists and creators. Topics covered include design, sculpture, mold making, lab work, animatronics, makeup effects, puppet mastering, painting, and fabrication. John Rosenkrantz learned from the great Stan Winston, beginning to work at Stan Winston Studios on The Terminator. He got an impressive list of credits working for his mentor. After Winston's death, he founded the company Legacy Effects with other SWS mainstays. He was nominated for Best Visual Effects Academy Award for the film Real Steel. He won 3 Primetime Emmy Awards in the Outstanding Special and Visual Effects category for his work on the television programs The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett. Rosenkrantz is a key contributor to the special visual effects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He served as the visual effects supervisor for the first Iron Man movie, which kicked off the MCU. He played a pivotal role in bringing Tony Stark's iconic Iron Man suits to life on the big screen, working closely with the team at Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, to create the suit's sleek design and realistic movements. Rosenkrantz' work in the MCU extended beyond the Iron Man films. He served as the visual effects supervisor for the Avengers. Rosenkrantz played a crucial role in creating the epic battle sequences and seamlessly integrating the visual effects with the live-action footage. He recently retired and passed the torch to a new generation of visual effects artists. The cast includes Andre Gower as Sean, Robbie Kiger as Patrick, Brent Chalem as Horace, Ryan Lambert as Rudy, Michael Faustino as Eugene, Ashley Bank as Phoebe, Stephen Macht as Dell, Sean's dad, Mary Ellen Trainor as Emily, Sean's mom, Leonardo Crimino as the scary German guy, Duncan Regier as Count Dracula, Tom Noonan as Frankenstein's monster, John Grease as Desperate Man, the Wolfman in human form, Carl Thibault as the Wolfman in Wolfman form, Tom Woodruff Jr. as the Gillman, Michael Reed McKay as the Mummy. This film is Andre Gower's best-known role. He began acting in commercials and guest starring on TV shows like The A-Team and Highway to Heaven in the early 80s. After Monster Squad, he did more television. However, acting jobs dried up in the late 90s, although it seems that they came back in the mid-2000s. Gower attends numerous conventions, sharing behind-the-scenes stories with fans. He recently produced and directed the award-winning documentary Wolfman's Got Nards, which delves into the lasting power of film and the dynamic of fan loyalty. I really need to watch that. Gower and Robbie Kiger were friends in real life before filming. Gower campaigned to the producers to hire Kiger in the best friend role of Patrick. Kiger was a fairly prolific child actor. The role in The Monster Squad seems to be one of his last acting credits. Brent Chalem, Michael Faustino, and Ryan Lambert were child actors in the 80s. It appears Ryan took a break and returned to acting in 2009. Ashley Banks seems to have followed the same trajectory. Stephen Macht might be the best educated actor I've covered so far. He trained professionally at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts, graduated from Dartmouth College, and earned a PhD in dramatic literature from Indiana University. He's got almost 100 credits at imdb.com. Mary Ellen Trainor broke into acting in the early 80s and had parts in some major hits of that era, not limited to Die Hard, the entire Lethal Weapon series, The Goonies, and Forrest Gump. Leonardo Cimino stormed the beaches of Normandy during World War II, so he had his own personal experiences with Nazis that he could draw upon in acting in this film. So now let's move on to the monsters. In his youth, Duncan Regier distinguished himself as a champion figure skater. He hosted a radio program as a teenager. Regier was also an Olympic boxing contender. He was a performer in his native Canada before tackling Hollywood in 1980. Less known is that he was also a highly accomplished and internationally exhibited artist. He studied painting with the Dutch surrealist Henri Pousset, apologies for pronouncing that, as well as literature, psychology, and sociology at Camosun College on Vancouver Island. Now, we saw Tom Noonan in Wolfen back in 1981, although you can be forgiven for not recognizing him here under all the Frankenstein monster makeup. John Grease has been acting for over 50 years now. My favorite from his long list of credits includes Real Genius from 1985 and Napoleon Dynamite from 2004 as Uncle Rico. Tom Woodruff Jr. is not just an actor in this film. He might be more well known for his special effects and makeup work. In addition to playing the Gilman here, he created the monster design for Frankenstein's monster. Interestingly, he was nominated in 1983 for Best Visual Effects Oscar for both Aliens 3 and Death Becomes Her. He won for Death Becomes Her. Tom played a minor part as a werewolf in Cirque du Freak, the vampire's assistant, in 2009. When he does act, he is frequently under heavy makeup. This was Michael Reed McKay's first acting role. Like Tom, he often acts under heavy makeup playing monsters. I absolutely recommend this movie with a minor warning. Let's talk about the awesome first. Superb makeup, great energy, a roller coaster ride that doesn't give you time to think about anything because the next spectacle is already coming. Atmospheric in the best way, a love letter to Universal's horror that rewards knowing the original movies. The thing holding it back is some pretty dated but period-accurate language at the beginning of the film that some audiences today might find jarring to their modern sensibilities. I still love it. Now, as much as this film is an absolute homage to the Universal movie monsters, the crew didn't have the rights to them and had to create characters suggestive of the iconic monsters. The challenge was to suggest these classic creatures without really copying them, explained Shane Mahan, because we didn't have permission or the license to use those specific images. So we could do a Gilman, for example, but it couldn't look too much like the creature from the Black Lagoon. It was frustrating for us at first because, of course, we wanted to do the original designs, but we couldn't. We could only suggest those designs. So the Frankenstein's monster looks a bit like the Karloff creature, but instead of bolts in the neck, he has bolts in his forehead. There was a certain percentage of changes that we had to make to get away from any legal copyright infringement. All right, so let's review the synopsis. Abraham Van Helsing has a squad of assistants assault Count Dracula's castle in the opening credits. The heroes fail, and the present-day best friends Sean and Patrick are in the principal's office because they aren't paying attention in class. Meanwhile, a pair of bullies pick on a fat kid named Horace. A greaser wannabe, Rudy, rescues Horace. This crew, plus younger kid Eugene, form the Monster Squad, a club of preteens who idolize classic monsters and monster movies and hold their meetings in a tree clubhouse. Sean's 5-year-old sister Phoebe desperately wants to join the club. Dracula escapes from a military cargo plane and takes a crate with him. Sean lucks into possession of the diary of legendary vampire hunter Abraham Van Helsing. His father is a cop, and his parents have marital issues. Around town, odd events occur. A man claims to be a werewolf and begs the police to lock him up. They gun him down instead. While his body is being transported to the morgue, he transforms, kills the driver, and escapes. A mummy just walks away from a local museum exhibit. Dracula raises Frankenstein's monster from the crate with the help of a swamp creature. Dracula controls this squad of monsters with his mystical cane. They set up shop in an abandoned house near the swamp. Dracula came to town looking for Van Helsing's diary. Dracula instructs Frankenstein's monster to find that diary during the day while he must sleep. Sean puts all the clues together and deduces that the Monster Squad must save the day because the adults don't understand or believe what's going on. Sean can't read the diary because it's written in German. So the Monster Squad visits an elderly man known as the Scary German Guy, who is actually a very kind gentleman, to translate the diary. The diary describes in great detail an amulet comprised of concentrated good. One day, every century, the forces of good and evil reach a balance, and the otherwise indestructible amulet becomes vulnerable to destruction. The next day of balance is tomorrow night at midnight. When the Monster Squad wonders how the German man knows so much about Van Helsing's battle with the monsters, he comments that he has some experience with monsters, and his shirt sleeve briefly reveals a concentration camp tattoo. The kids realize they must find the amulet before the day of balance arrives. Once they have the amulet, the kids can use an incantation from Van Helsing's diary to open a hole in the universe and cast the monsters into limbo. Frankenstein's monster is reluctant to obey Dracula. He encounters Phoebe. She shows him kindness. Phoebe shows the Monster Squad that Frankenstein's monster is not evil and that they befriend the monster. He chooses to help the boys instead of Dracula. They christen him Frank. Van Helsing's apprentices emigrated to the United States to hide the amulet, where it would be outside of Dracula's control. Dracula, meanwhile, seeks to obtain the amulet before the Monster Squad does, so that the Count can take control of the world and plunge it into darkness. The amulet turns out to be buried in a hidden room under the house Dracula and the other monsters now occupy, and where Van Helsing's diary was originally found. Rudy spends shop class the next day making stakes and forging silver bullets out of silverware. Now, my high school did not have an ammunition press in shop class. The other boys prepare in various ways. Protective wards prevent the monsters from simply taking the amulet. Dracula transforms 3 high school girls into his vampiric consorts. The werewolf tries again to alert the police, in vain. The Monster Squad finds the amulet by dumb luck and escapes Dracula's grasp with a talent for unconventional thinking. They unravel the mummy like a Scooby-Doo episode. Dracula destroys their clubhouse with a stick of dynamite. As midnight approaches, the squad makes their way to the local cathedral to make their last stand. Sean's father, Detective Dell, charged with investigating the strange happenings in town, but quite skeptical about their supernatural causes, has a run-in with Dracula that convinces him of the supernatural danger his son is in. Unfortunately, the cathedral's doors are locked, so their incantation must be read at the front steps, leaving the Monster Squad vulnerable. The squad does have the assistance of Patrick's older sister, as she is the only virgin they know who speaks German. Unfortunately, with time winding down, the incantation fails, since it turns out Lisa isn't a virgin anymore. Rudy fights Dracula's brides, while Sean and Dell face off with Dracula and the Wolfman, who gets temporarily blown up with dynamite, but immediately regenerates. Rudy uses his silver bullets to put down the Wolfman, who thanks the boy with his last dying breath. Horace uses a shotgun on the swamp monster. They realize Phoebe, being 5, is both a girl and a virgin, which is a big relief. Yay. The German helps her read the incantation. Dracula arrives and is about to kill Phoebe when Frank shows up and impales the Count on a wrought iron fence. Phoebe finishes the incantation, opening the portal, which begins consuming debris and the bodies of the monsters. Dracula attempts to drag Sean in with him, but Sean stabs Dracula with a wooden stake at the last second. Van Helsing escapes limbo to help drag Dracula to his final fate. Phoebe tearfully holds on to Frank, but he says goodbye. He accepts the gift of a stuffed animal to remember her. The portal closes, ensuring the world's safety. The United States Army arrives in the aftermath, having received a letter from Eugene earlier asking for their help against the monsters. While a very confused general struggles to understand the situation, Sean presents the man with his business card, identifying himself and his friends as the Monster Squad. The transformations in this film really surprised me. I did not remember them being as good as they are. In my memory, the Wolfman was less of a character than he actually is, which is great. We get two cool transformations. In the first, the camera pans down the corpse in the coroner's van as we see parts transforming in turn. Of particular note is the shoes bursting as the claws rip through. Then we get another great transformation in the monster house, which focuses on the back, which I thought to be a really interesting choice. The back is big and broad, and they could do some cool effects. They made a specific choice on the makeup job to focus on the wolf aspect at the cost of expressiveness. I liked how they bulked up the chest and shoulders so that the head wouldn't feel out of proportion, which I feel like is a mistake a lot of artists make. This marks the first classic top-heavy silhouette that reminds me of a werewolf. Stan Winston Studios supervisor John Rosenkrantz led the Wolfman build. More importantly, I need to report the Wolfman has nards. I repeat, the Wolfman has nards. Other than this confirmation, this film sticks like glue to the universal werewolf lore. Full moon, silver bullets, reluctant werewolf, all of it. That is the point of the movie. The big theme I want to talk about is youth versus age. The Monster Squad is a celebratory ode to the joys and boundless imagination of childhood. By pitting a ragtag group of preteen friends against a horde of classic movie monsters, the film contrasts the power and vibrancy of youth against the cynicism and ossification that can come with age. On one side are the Monster Squad kids themselves, outcasts and misfits, but united in the belief in the fantastical and exploring the realms of the unknown. Their imaginations run wild in a makeshift clubhouse adorned with horror relics and ephemera. The film posits that to be a child is to remain open to possibilities, no matter how outlandish or frightening. Opposed to this is the specter of adulthood creeping in to shatter such fanciful illusions. Whether it's dismissive parents chastising the kids for perpetuating ghost stories or skeptical cops refusing to acknowledge any possible threat beyond the mundane, aging is portrayed as potentially corrupting the human capacity for magical thinking and the belief in the extraordinary. Now, the film does show that aging doesn't automatically close the mind. The German man and Van Helsing are old, but still open-minded because of their extreme life experiences. The German man survived the horrors of the Holocaust under the Nazis. Witnessing such atrocities shattered his view of what is possible. He can no longer dismiss supernatural things as fiction after seeing how monstrous normal people can be. Van Helsing has spent decades fighting undead forces like Dracula. Confronting these unimaginable evils has kept his mind open to realms beyond normal human understanding, unlike most adults who deny such threats even exist. By depicting these two elders who have seen it all, yet remain open to extraordinary possibilities, the film argues that maintaining a childlike sense of wonder is not at odds with maturity. The film celebrates that imagination and curiosity is not something to discard as you age. Ultimately, Van Helsing symbolically passes the torch to the Monster Squad, finalizing and finishing his fight, and entrusting this new generation to continue the struggle. The kids preserve their innocence by heroically vanquishing the monsters, while Van Helsing can rest, seeing the job he began finished. The Monster Squad keeps the wonderment of childhood alive in defiance of the creeping hostility of adulthood. It's a joyful affirmation that the imagination, creativity, and sheer fun of being young should be cherished and protected. Part of the reason I'm doing this project is to help this old man hang on to the enthusiasm of his youth. Now, the Monster Squad and Dracula's monsters display key contrasts in unity and camaraderie from the Monster Squad kids. From the start, the kids in the squad exhibit a strong sense of cohesion, with Rudy and Phoebe readily joining forces, and even the German willing to assist them. In contrast, Dracula's side is plagued by defections and wavering allegiances from the outset. One prime example is the Wolfman. The first time we encounter him, he's trying to warn the authorities, exhibiting conflicted motivations, making him an uneasy addition to the film's antagonists. Dracula is forced to keep the Wolfman drugged during the day, as he would otherwise defect and aid humanity. Of course, once he changes forms, the Wolfman is indeed a fearsome threat, but he's not a constant or reliable one. Similarly, Frankenstein's monster garners immediate sympathy through childlike mannerisms. Despite his intimidating size and grotesque visage, his gentle nature shines through repeatedly. When the Monster Squad kids encounter him, he protects them from harm inflicted by more overtly hostile monsters, like Dracula or the Mummy. The film leans into the classic Frankenstein story pathos. He is an unwitting, tragic figure, an inarticulate being doomed by circumstances beyond his control to be rebuked as a monster. His reluctant participation in the villainous scheme is driven more by loneliness and a desperate search for acceptance somewhere than any malicious intent. In the cinematic moment when Dracula has Phoebe in his grasp and victory is his, Frankenstein's monster ultimately saves the day, underscoring his essential goodness. Ultimately, humanity emerges victorious from this battle, not just because the kids came together, but also because their foes are plagued by disunity and conflicted loyalties. Dracula's monsters lack the cohesion and unwavering camaraderie that binds the Monster Squad together, ultimately contributing to their final downfall. So, if you like lycanthropes, like, share, and subscribe. Contribute your thoughts and additional observations in the comments below. Let me know what I missed or what you noticed. Next, I plan on discussing Howling 3, The Marsupials from 1987. Keep your eye on the moon, silver bullet in the chamber, and we'll see you back here next episode.